Today we're going to talk about how contour can really enhance masculine features in subtle and natural ways, and we're going to swatch and compare my entire contour collection. If you're new to my channel, welcome, I am Mattis. I used to be a London-based makeup artist and worked for amazing brands like Chanel, Dior, Hermes and Charlotte Tilbury. I now share those backstage male model makeup tips with you so you can feel and look better and have more confidence in your job, in dating, at events or even just a grocery store. If you're interested in natural enhancing makeup tips, make sure to subscribe and say hi in the comments. And now get yourself a drink, relax, and we'll begin. Now I have been wearing a contour during this entire intro, and I really want to show you how it can really change your face, but in a very natural and subtle way. When it comes to contour, there is a slight difference between a sort of masculinizing contour and a contour that feminizes the face a bit more. Now I want to make clear that one is not better than the other, and this channel is never about exclusion. No matter if you identify as male, as female, as non-binary, you are welcome here. If you're trans, you're welcome here. And when we talk about masculine versus feminine features, I am aware that I'm talking about it in a sort of traditional sense, and I'm talking about masculine features in quite traditional ways. I am aware of that, but it's the same principle as makeup that really feminizes the face. And personally, I think it's completely okay to express ourselves in whatever ways we love. Essentially, when you think of masculine features in a face, there is more sort of rectangular shapes. The jaw is sharper, the chin is more square. The cheekbones often are not quite as high and don't stick out as far. The brow ridge is quite heavy. The brows often quite dark and sort of more in a straight shape. If your face doesn't look like that, there's nothing wrong with you. But you can experiment and try enhancing your features in different ways. So I'm gonna wipe off the contour I currently have on, and we're gonna apply it from scratch. Using this contour stick by Dior, I like to do a little bit of a dot right in the center of the cheek, then create a thin line towards the ear and a little bit of a line downwards towards the chin. So it really comes down to this sort of curve, and wherever we put the contour, it creates a shadow-like effect. I know it sounds a bit morbid, but you can almost picture your skull. If you saw the actual skull, you would see that in this area, there's sort of this sunkenness. There's no bone in this area, or rather it goes in more. And that's what we're kind of trying to emphasize with contour. Because when you have that sunkenness under the cheekbone, it just really brings out the bone structure more. It makes your face look more defined. Great, for example, if you have puffiness or if your face is more on the round side, which is not a bad thing. More round faces and features can be beautiful, but it's just about experimentation and finding what feels good to you, what makes you look and feel your best. And to me personally, I just feel like I look best when I have a bit of a sculpted jaw area, my cheekbones stick out a bit more, my eyes are a bit more deep set, and with contour I can achieve all of that. So yeah, the first area where I contour would be the cheek. This one is quite pigmented, so in actuality, in everyday life, I would not apply quite as much, but I just want to really show you and make it clear where to place the contour. The second area would be right underneath the jaw, and you can really be guided where your jaw naturally ends and where that bone naturally sticks out. Now, in case the chin line is not quite as defined, you can really feel with your finger where that bone is, and then take your contour stick and trace right along that. You can then also slightly bring it in on this edge, which will make the jaw stand out even more and look a little bit more square. You can also go right underneath your chin if you want to just slightly square the chin off. This also can be helpful if there's a little bit of a double chin, and then repeat the same on the other side. Now again, this is way more than I would usually apply just because this is a really pigmented formula. But yeah, I just want to really show you where to place this. Then, and this is personal preference, I like to sort of create a bit of a shadow right on the temple, because personally my forehead is quite flat and I like bringing some dimension to the forehead. You can even make the brow bone a little bit heavier just by creating a little bit of a line right above the brow ridge. I know it looks quite crazy, and you don't need to do this if you already have lines on your forehead or if your forehead is already sort of defined. Mine is quite flat again, so bringing in some definition, making the brow bone a bit heavier can actually look really good. I will skip the nose for today because it will just be too much. That might be a whole nother video, so let me know if you want to see this. But yeah, we're about to blend, but just before, I'm also going to remove the contour on the other side so you can see the difference. So to blend, you can use a brush or a sponge. I really love using this universal blending brush by Make Beauty. It's just fantastic for everything, like blending contour, concealer, foundation, bronzer, blush. I use this for pretty much everything. And immediately you can see how it brings more definition, more of a defined line to the jaw. Now you really want to make sure this is completely blended because it can look obvious, especially in daylight. So the first few times you do this and try this out, you want to make sure to blend and check in the mirror, ideally during the day when there's daylight coming in. You really want to make sure that the color of the contour is right for you and that it blends beautifully into your skin. There's no harsh lines. Now we're also going to blend the contour on the cheek, and I just follow the line essentially and really blend it in. So this is what it looks like blended into the skin. It can also be helpful to set it in place with some powder just to really remove any shine from the contoured area, because anything that is sort of matte sort of pulls back, whereas any area where you have shine, it sort of pulls forward more and creates more volume, whereas we want to create the opposite of volume. So really setting in place with powder just exactly where you contoured can really help with that illusion. Then we're going to blend in the forehead contour, and the great thing about placing contour here is that the cheekbone stands out a bit more, because you have the sort of area underneath the cheekbone that sinks in, and you have the area above the cheekbone that also sinks in, whereas the high cheekbone right here is still nice and bright, really creating the illusion of a more pronounced cheekbone. Now you can also use highlighter on the cheekbone, but that's again for another video. Today we really want to only focus on contour, blending out the contour above the brow ridge. And again, you want to keep this quite subtle, because the last thing we want is sort of this dark stripe right on our forehead for everyone to see. Ideally, it's just very slight shadow that can actually visually shorten the forehead and again put more emphasis on the brow bone itself. And here we have the contoured side versus the side without contour. So I'm really going to give you a closer look with contour, without contour. So it is a subtle result, hopefully. If I did a good enough job blending, it is a subtle result. And you know, if you say there's no difference, it looks the same, I hear you, that's okay. Again, my channel is about very subtle, natural enhancing of the face. And especially when it comes to contour, if you go overboard, it will be very visible, it will stand out, and it will just not look natural. So with contour, I like to go sparingly, really build up slowly and not go overboard and not go crazy. This is something I still do almost every day. For me, the results I get are worth it, because I feel like it just emphasizes those features you naturally have. So you will still look like yourself, but just a little bit better, like the elevated version of yourself. Now I'm just going to do the same thing on the other side real quick, and we're going to swatch all the contours I currently have in my collection. Starting with the contour stick I just used by Dior, the Forever Skin Contour in the shade 01 Light. And this particular shade is perfect for you if you have a light skin tone. It has enough gray to it that it actually looks like a contour on the skin, but it's not too cool and not too gray. It's sort of that perfect milky taupe that really creates a beautiful shadow. Now there are a few criteria I will touch upon when talking about the following contours. The first one being the color. Warmth really means that a color has more orange in it, whereas coolness means it has more blue in it. Now there are of course even more things that you could talk about. You could talk about the saturation of a color. To be honest, it's not easy to figure out all those specifics and technicalities of your skin tone, but you can roughly be guided by how deep your skin is. If your skin is more on the fair side, you want to try out some of the fair contour options that brands offer, whereas if your skin is deeper, you want to try some of the deeper ones. I will try to just keep it simple, to be honest, but yeah, I would say this specific contour is sort of neutral. It has enough gray in it, it's not too warm toned, so it beautifully works as a contour on light skins. If you're extremely fair, it might still have a bit too much warmth in it, because there are some people that have incredibly fair skin where it's actually really hard to find good contours. This might still be a little bit too warm for you, but for most light skin tones, this should be okay. Because in general, you blend out contour anyway. You don't have a full-on stripe on your face anyway. You really want to sheer it out. So you don't really need to be perfect with the exact match of contour. Now, in terms of the coverage that this offers, this is actually really high. It's a very creamy formula that really covers, so you only need a small amount. It's very, very pigmented. So you saw the way I applied it earlier, that was actually way too much, but I will show you with some other examples how you would apply your contour on a day-to-day basis in a sort of more effortless way that really doesn't get too obvious in the daylight. So yeah, that would be the second criteria, the coverage. And then the third criteria would be the packaging, because personally I love good packaging and the Dior contour really wins in this regard. It's beautifully designed. It has this silver cap detail. It opens easily. It has some branding here in the front, but it's quite subtle. It's not too in your face. This is actually a design I really enjoy. So I would say in the category color, this is a winner. In terms of the packaging, again, a winner. In terms of the coverage or opacity rather, it's really the opacity we're talking about. It's a little bit much. I would love if this actually was a little bit less pigmented, so it would be a little bit easier to control. But nonetheless, this is one that I reach for all the time. I love using this and I highly recommend it. Oh, and I also love that this comes in a stick format. The stick format is definitely my favorite when it comes to contour products. But yeah, there will be a few different ones throughout my collection. I'm gonna actually show you a little palette. I don't know if this would count as a palette, but it's essentially a cream contour by the brands Danessa, Myricks. One of the most recent additions to my contour collection. And I have to say, this is incredible. The formula is beautiful. It melts into the skin and the color as well is spot on. So I'm actually gonna swatch this one with a finger and go right next to the Dior with it. And you can actually see that this is a very similar color to the Dior contour. This is the shade Fair 1, by the way. I would say there is a little bit more of a sheerness to this formula. It's a little bit less opaque than the Dior and maybe has a little bit more of a glow to it as well. Now I'm gonna again remove the first contour from my cheek with a clean finger. I'm gonna find my cheekbone and I really want to find sort of the center of the cheek, sort of where the cheekbone ends. There's a hollow underneath. So right here in my case, right here is where I want to place the contour. So this is sort of the furthest point where the contour goes. And then I want to go right underneath the cheekbone, sort of right there is where I can place a little dot as well. And then just the excess, I'm just going to place right here because I really want to create that sunken cheek effect. So you can see that's actually quite a bit of a smaller amount than I used earlier. I'm just going to sort of dab it in with a finger. It doesn't have to be difficult at all. Just really melt it in. You know, the warmth of the fingers actually really helps. And there are so many different ways to apply contour. There's also so many different theories about contour. So you know, this is how I do it and how I recommend people to do it. But, you know, other creators have some really fair points. Other makeup artists have some different techniques perhaps. So it's good to try different ones out and also just see what looks and feels the best to you specifically. Every single face is different. Everyone has different things that they love about themselves or that they want to sort of hide and cover up or accentuate. And you know, that's the great thing about makeup. You can really experiment and try out different things. But yeah, that's how I would do it with this specific contour, and that was so easy to blend. You can see it gives me a little bit of subtle definition, but it really effortlessly melted into the skin. So yeah, again, in terms of the color, a fantastic color. It sort of is right in between on that line between being too cool and too warm. For me, it's perfect. It's right in the center. But again, if you're really fair skinned or you have more of a cool tone skin tone, it might still be a little bit too warm for you. But for most light skin tones, this should be great. And you know, Danessa Myricks is also a fantastic brand in terms of inclusivity. It's a Black female founded brand. So Danessa really makes sure to include everyone. Let's move on to the packaging. And I actually just realized that I haven't pulled off the plastic from the mirror yet. So let's do that together for a little ASMR moment. I don't know, did you hear that? Did it do anything? But yeah, essentially this is a compact with a cream product inside as well as a mirror. Now the compact itself is very pretty, it's very well done. It has this closure that you press and open, and then you get actually quite a bit of product in here. And you again have the mirror so you can really check what you're doing. I will say that the glue underneath my pan is actually sort of dried up. So actually when I tilt it over, I think, yep, it falls out. So yeah, it's a little bit annoying, but not a huge deal. And otherwise, yeah, it's good packaging. Personally, I still prefer a stick for ease of use. You know, with a stick, I can really choose if I want to put it into the back of my hand and pick it up with a brush, or I want to draw it on directly onto the face. I will always prefer a stick. What can I say? In terms of the color, this is a winner for me. It's right in the middle. It's easy to create a natural shadow with it. And in terms of the formula, this is actually fantastic. And I think this is actually one of my favorite formulas that I have. I actually prefer prefer this to the Dior in terms of formula, just because it's not quite as opaque. It sort of shears out more easily and it's not hard to work with. It's actually really easy to work with. So yeah, I do really recommend it, even for beginners, but really anyone. This is a fantastic contour, comes in many different shades. So yeah, I can absolutely recommend it wholeheartedly, unless you really want the ease of a stick, in which case I have plenty of other options. Let's move on to a completely new brand. And this is actually an indie brand that I think came out very recently. I'm not actually sure. This is really interesting. This is Scrandie Beauty, and they essentially launched these little blocks of contour. So it comes out like this. I used it maybe like 4 times now, but I always used it on this edge. But yeah, it's essentially this rectangular block of contour, which makes it really fun to draw on contour because you can be quite precise in really drawing these lines. I'm actually going to show you. But yeah, this has been a real joy to use, and I'm going to swatch it right here for you. I hope we have enough space on my chest here, but this, you can see, actually is lighter than the other two. So this is the fairest shade from Scrandie Beauty in the color light. It still has a little bit of warmth to it, but I feel like if you have really light skin, this would be a great choice for you. I can still absolutely get away with this one, but I also love using the slightly darker shade, a medium. But yeah, here you can see them right next to each other, and I'm also gonna swatch the medium shade. Oh yeah, actually swatching them next to each other, you can really see the difference. So you can really see that the light shade is lighter and the medium shade actually is much closer to the previous shades we swatched. So the Dior and the Danessa Myricks, actually it's very, very close to the Dior contour in terms of shade. So this might actually be quite a good alternative. And I think in terms of price, it's lower, but of course you also don't get Dior packaging for it. But not everyone needs that. So, you know, that's a really good alternative. I'm gonna again swipe away the previous contour from my cheek, just applying a little bit of this Laura Mercier tinted moisturizer, just to even out my skin again. And yes, I'm still working on a tinted moisturizer, skin tint, etc. video, and this might be one of the ones that I'm currently testing that I'm really loving. Little spoiler there. But yeah, that's definitely a video that I'm excited about making, and that's coming soon. Okay, I'm gonna go in with the medium just because I really want to compare it to the Dior that we swatched earlier. And with this, again, we can really create really thin lines. And this actually in terms of opacity is not scary. It really blends out so easily. So this is actually a real joy to use. And I'm gonna again go in with my trusty Make Beauty brush, and just melt it in. You can see it literally disappears into the skin right away, really leaving behind a quite believable contour effect. I'm actually gonna use a little bit more. With this one, you can easily build up more. And I really, really love the effect. This was so easy to work with. It's really fun to draw on these really thin lines with this. Of course, it might change a little bit. As you keep using it, it won't be quite as rectangular anymore. So creating these very skinny lines might just be in the beginning. But yeah, still, this is a great one to use. Really melts away, melts into the skin. Of course, if you want quite dramatic results and really visible results, for the stage, for example, this might not be enough, but for every day, this is fantastic. And also, it's really nice to support an indie brand in the beauty industry. So all in all, yeah, these are definitely winners. The colors are fantastic. The level of opacity and ease of use is fantastic. The packaging works for this case. It's quite practical. It's actually quite innovative and easy to throw into your purse and have a little touch-ups on the go or have it in your makeup bag. I really loved my experience with these. And again, so far, these are the colors we're working with. And we're moving on to yet another contour stick. And this actually is quite a classic at this point. This is the Matchstick by Amber. No, this is the Matchstick by Fenty Beauty in the color Amber. And you know, this has been around for years and years now, and it really is still that great. First up, what I love about these is that they come in so many different colors. So there's really something for everyone. Also love that they come in a stick, and the color Amber is really quite fantastic as a shade for light skin tones. And you can see again, we're very much in that milky taupe family. This is again one of my favorite shades of contour. It really creates a very believable, natural contoured look. But yes, this time we're gonna apply again a little dot right under the high cheekbone, and then a little dot further back, and then a little one as well further down. And this time I want to blend in with a brush This specific formula is sort of in the middle in all areas. It's right in the middle of opacity, so it's easy to blend. And it's also right in the middle in terms of color, being neither too cool nor too warm. And yeah, that's the result I got from this. I really love this. I will say the packaging, in my opinion, is a little bit outdated perhaps. The color feels a little bit sort of millennial pink. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Kim K.W. Contour. So I feel like they could do with a little bit of an updating of the packaging. But you know, it works. It never broke on me. The packaging is solid. So yeah, you can't really fault it. Even though it's not the most current design, I think, in my opinion, it's still a fantastic product that I highly recommend, specifically because they have such a wide range of colors, but also because the formula is so solid. It's easily blendable and yeah, just ticks all of the boxes, so can't really fault it. We're moving on to a more affordable option of contour. And you know, contour at the drugstore, still kind of hard to find. Don't know why. I feel like by now we should have plenty of contour options at the drugstore, but I don't know. The ones that exist, they're just kind of off. Often in terms of the color, they're often a bit too warm and orange. And yeah, this one is huge exception. This is the trended up contour from DM. DM is a chain of drugstores here in Austria, as well as in Germany and in Switzerland, I believe. But I think you should be able to order DM in other countries as well. It's a fantastic product. Essentially has this sponge tip applicator that we already know from lots of other products, but it's this tube mechanism. You squeeze a little bit out and then you really always want to make sure that you close the sort of contraption so not more product leaks. But yeah, you squeeze out a little bit, and actually I'm going to swatch right in the center here. Let's be real for a moment. I know they look very, very similar to each other. Actually, from my feeling, I would have expected this to be lighter in color, but I think that just speaks to the formula, because the formula actually is a little bit more on the sheer side, which makes this look really, really natural and very easy to blend onto the skin. What I will say about this is, being a drugstore brand and being sold at DM, the color selection is abysmal. It's sad. I think there's actually only 2 colors. This being one of them, and then there's one darker shade. But yeah, there's definitely nothing for anyone, even from tan to black skin. There's nothing for them, and that's actually really sad. That is something that should absolutely be looked into and changed, updated. There needs to be a darker color of this. I actually just looked it up just to be really sure that it's true what I'm saying. And yes, there's 2 colors. There's gray brown and then there's dark brown. And dark brown might be fine for medium skin, but definitely not for tan skin, definitely not for black skin. Saying that, if you match this color, this is a fantastic option because it's affordable and it's easy to use, and I'm going to show you on my face. So you want to twist it open and just gently squeeze, and then again shut it closed, and then you can again do the dotting technique where you go right under the cheekbone, then one a little bit further in, and then one below towards the chin, blending it in with the brush. And again, this really seamlessly and quickly melts into the skin. What really works well as well is if you do that sort of patting motion with the brush. You sort of push it into the skin rather than swiping it around. And that literally disappeared. It looks really, really natural. I could even build it up more. I actually want to leave it like this. I love this contour. I actually use this frequently. Again, the color right in the middle. The packaging, of course, I mean, it is drugstore, so it's not going to be the most luxurious packaging, but you know, there are some more luxury brands that also have this sponge tip applicator, so it's actually not that bad. It's actually good design, and I highly recommend this one. We still have quite a few contours to go, and we don't have that much space, so I'm a little bit scared, but we're moving on to Milk, and this is the Milk makeup contour. And yeah, you can immediately see mine looks quite worn. It looks quite used. There's still quite a bit left. Essentially, the font has rubbed off, and the cap also gets a bit dirty. In terms of the packaging design, I'm not the biggest fan of this one in particular, but in terms of formula and color, this is amazing. So this is again a very similar color to the other ones. I would say probably a hint deeper in color, but again, there are some other options for different colors, for deeper colors. I believe this one is the lightest. It's the color Toasted, but I'm gonna go straight into application, just again wiping my poor cheek with some micellar water to really remove any excess product. Another video I've been thinking about making is that sort of eye contour that I love to do, and really go into depth about that specific eyeshadow technique. So I would love to know if this is something you'd be interested in. Okay, I evened out the skin so we can go straight in with the contour. And this time, why don't we do a little line? Because this one you can actually do a little bit of a line with. But again, I don't want to build up too much product. The coverage of this one, or the opacity rather, is again pretty much the middle ground. Very similar to the Fenty, quite a bit less than the Dior, so really easy to use, really pleasant to use, and it melts right in. I just saw that I wiped away my blush. I'm wearing this Chanel one today in the color Beige Éclatante, which is this beautiful warm rosy shade. I'm just gonna very gently apply that on top of the cheek, trying not to change the contour in any way. But yeah, back to the contour. So the milk contour is a fantastic option. It's again right in the middle. It's not too warm, not too cool. You can really create a believable shadow with it. Easy to blend. The one drawback for me personally is the packaging. I know that there's a bigger version. This is actually just the mini version that I got to try it. And actually it lasts for a very long time. So I think if you get one of them, I would actually highly recommend the mini option, because again, the packaging after a while just doesn't look as nice anymore. And that really takes some points off for me personally. But the formula really makes up for it, and that's why I actually still use this quite a bit. But yeah, in terms of the swatches, you can see very close to those other ones as well. Maybe a hint darker, but because you share it out anyway, nothing really to worry about. And then we have the last one of these sticks that come in that very similar color. This is actually by Westman Atelier, and it's the Face Trace Contour Stick. And I'm just gonna swatch it right here for you. And this actually is a little bit warmer and a little bit darker than the other ones. It's just a hint, really. It's no dramatic difference, but actually during application, you really see that difference. So it's a beautiful design. Actually, I think in terms of design, this sort of wins. This is so slick. You have that very subtle branding engraved into the packaging. You have this sort of golden bands in here. You have this magnetic closure that feels quite heavily weighted, really satisfying. So this is actually amazing design. So going straight onto the cheek, again doing the little dots right here. This is so great in terms of the blendability, pretty much like the last few ones I showed you, like the milk one, like the Fenty one. Easy to blend, easy in terms of coverage and opacity, really not too much, right in the middle. Just the color, I would say, is probably a hint too deep and a little bit too warm for you if your skin tone is really on the fair side. I use this when I'm bronzed up, but if I really don't have any fake tan on, this almost pulls a bit more bronzy on me, almost like a Brontour effect. But yeah, I would say this one really is for you if you still have a little bit of warmth to your skin. It really depends on preference, because some people are really after the very, very, very cool tones contour, almost gray tone contour, in which case I don't have that many recommendations. There's a few that I have, but those are not really the contours I use on a daily basis, just because usually I have a little bit of warmth to my skin because I always use keratin tablets, and I also very frequently fake tan. I love using a fake tanning serum on my face just to bring back some color. So I don't really need contour that is very, very cool tones and gray. Personally, I prefer that contour that still has a touch of warmth, or at least neutrality to it. But yeah, I love this contour. I use it very frequently. You can see it gives a very natural, beautiful result. Great for nose contour, as are most of the other ones. You can totally use this around the eyes as well, which I really love to do, as long as you set it in place. And yeah, this is a winner. And the packaging, again, so luxurious, so beautiful. Such a satisfying sort of closure, and a real winner from Westman Atelier. Then we want to move on to something very different. This is actually a contour palette, and I do actually have a few, but I only want to mention this one today because some of the other ones I haven't tested that much. I might talk about them more in a future video. I actually have some really great K-beauty products and some K-beauty contour palettes. But yeah, this one I've definitely been using a lot, and actually have been talking about a lot as well. The way I use this is actually mostly mixing these three shades here in the center. So this is what I'm gonna swatch for you today. If there's any interest in these contour palettes by K-beauty brands, I'm very happy to do a more in-depth swatching and showing you the different colors in this palette. But yeah, this is sort of the shade combination that I usually go for. And you can see that this actually really pulls quite cool and also is a little bit lighter, or rather it's quite buildable. You can go in sheerly with this palette and create a very light natural contour, but you can also build it up to a more dramatic contour. This actually, if you have really fair skin, I think would be fantastic because you have those really fair light shades that are also quite gray and cool toned. So yeah, this, please screenshot now if you have really fair skin and you're always in my DMs asking me about really cool toned gray contours. I think this is fantastic for you. But also if you have light skin, sort of like me at the moment, where you still have a little bit of warmth to your skin, this is still fantastic. I also love using this around my eyes a lot. But yeah, we're gonna sort of use it on my face now so you can see. Now, because this is a powder product, I just want to make sure to set with a little bit of powder first, just so that it's easier to blend. This is especially good if you have a sort of glowy base underneath. But yeah, now I'm just gonna really combine all of these three shades, sort of mix them together and very slowly go right under my cheekbone, sort of following that hollow. Charlotte Tilbury always said, follow the hollow. So you really want to go underneath the cheekbone and then from underneath the cheekbone, sort of in a straightish line downwards towards the chin. Something that also can really help is if you suck in your cheek like this, and it really shows you where that shadow is. Kind of hard to show you while I'm talking, but yeah, it really shows you where that shadow is. And then you can just sort of create that shadow right there where you naturally would have it if you sucked in your cheek. And this palette really allows you to create a very soft, beautifully blended contour. It's also great for re-emphasizing contour you already have on your face, or even to use it as eyeshadow and create that deep set eye look that makes your eyes look quite mysterious, kind of like male models have them. Moving on to another cool toned contour, and this actually is from Sephora collection, and this is the contour stick it's called. I have the color Fair to Light 01. This is a really interesting one. I'm going to swatch it right here. And this actually is interesting because it's darker than the other ones, but it's also more gray. It's also more cool toned. Gray and cool toned are not the same thing, by the way. Gray means that it just has less saturation, whereas cool toned, again, would have more blue tones to it than orange tones. But yeah, this one is a really good option. I would say if you're a makeup artist and you're looking for those very specific colors, this has a little bit of a caveat to it because it's kind of a bit difficult to use because it's so high in opacity. It's so creamy. So if you apply a little bit, it really spreads out, and yeah, it's a little bit difficult to work with. You really only want to use the smallest amount of this. So again, we're gonna do a little tiny dot right there, right under the cheekbone, and then just the smallest dot, because again, this one scares me a little bit. It might also just be my imagination. This is just not the stick I use on a daily basis, so maybe I'm actually just making things up because I haven't used it in a while, and actually blends in really, really nicely. And because I use such a small amount, I think that's really the thing with this. As long as you use a small amount, it really does blend in quite nicely. You know, I think it's more so just a really creamy formula and the seemingly dark color that sort of makes me feel a bit intimidated when I look at this. So I just gravitate towards other options because they feel a bit more safe. But actually it blended out beautifully and it did a great job. And I do recommend this one. Also, it's relatively affordable because it's Sephora collection. And yeah, it's definitely a great option if you're someone that's looking for a gray, really cool toned contour. Now we're moving on into sort of a different category of contour, and this is Brontour. Brontour is basically a cross between bronzer and contour. So it's essentially contours that have quite a bit of warmth to them, to a point where you don't really create those very believable shadows with them. You still create a bit more definition to the face, but you also add some warmth to the face. One of them being this Charlotte Tilbury Contour Wand, and this is the shade Fair to Medium. This I always found was an acceptable contour if I was really, really bronzy, but actually it has quite, I mean, you can even see it compared to the other ones. It's quite a bit deeper, but also it's quite a bit warmer. It's just a bit more brown, really. It has that brown tone to it. It has that warmth to it that actually really nicely works as a Brontour. It warms up the skin, but also gives a bit more definition. So let's try it on the face. Now, as mentioned recently, there are new shades of this out, and there's actually a lighter shade now as well. I've not purchased it yet because I thought that I was being sent this, but apparently it was not being sent to me, which is totally fine, by the way. I just thought that I would get it, and so I didn't buy it myself yet. But I did swatch it in store, and it did look good. It is lighter than this one, but it still has a little bit of warmth to it. So I'm not sure if it's perfect for lighter skin tones, but I really have to try it on myself. But yeah, this one, it blends in really nice. And interestingly enough, I think because I applied a fake tan serum last night, I can actually get away with this as a contour. It's not even too warm for me, which is really funny because I was really expecting it to be a bit too warm for me at the moment. You know, usually I wear this as a contour more in the height of summer when I'm really fake tanned. I'm a little bit tanned, but not that much. Like, I'm not that different to my usual skin tone. I'm actually surprised that this works out so beautifully at the moment. It really melts in and gives it a very subtle contoured effect. Again, I would say if you're really, really fair, this is not the one to go. Maybe try out the new color that they launched. They also launched deeper shades now, which is really exciting. If you have a deeper skin tone, you might be able to find your shade in the Charlotte Tilbury contour now. But yeah, it's a beautiful formula. It's sheer, so it really melts in. And it comes in this sponge tip applicator. Just again, always make sure you close it. You really lock it just so that no product leaks out of it. But otherwise, this is a great option. Then we have the stick from Make Beauty. This is the Heat Stroke stick in the color, I forgot, let me check. The color Baked. And this actually very similar tone to the Charlotte Tilbury. That's really interesting. This formula, however, is quite a bit more shiny. So it's not really the perfect contour. This I really would apply a little bit higher onto the cheekbone because it will give my skin a bit of a glow. I mean, you can still set it with powder, but yeah, let's just try it on the cheek. Sort of a almost gel balm formula. It almost has a bit more redness to it. So my sort of feeling would be to almost apply this in the bronzer blush area, bring it up a little bit further. I wouldn't really use this as a contour per se, but sort of as a cross between contour, a little bit of glow, a little bit of blush even. Yeah, you can see I applied the line here, and I think it's a little bit too obvious here. So I'm just gonna wipe it away right there. It's just a bit too warm tone still for this area. This really nicely works on the cheek to bring some warmth and definition to the cheek. And it also really brought quite a bit of glow to the skin. So it really is a bit of a hybrid product, a really interesting product. Not really the one for you if you're strictly looking for a contour, but if you're happy to have a product that you can just swipe on and it sort of does a bit of everything. You know, it brought that warmth, it brought that glow, it brought a bit of definition to the cheekbone at the same time. This is a beautiful option. Now, Make Beauty in terms of the packaging, it has beautiful packaging. It's a bit more lightweight as well, so it's actually fantastic for traveling. I will say the fingerprints get onto this sort of mirror packaging quite easily, so I always give it a wipe before I show it on camera. But yeah, on a day-to-day basis, they do get a little bit sort of fingerprinty. But yeah, all in all, very easy to use, a beautiful result, albeit not really a contour, but more of a Brontour product. Now, moving on to the last product I want to talk about today, and this is by Saie Beauty. It's their Dew Bronzer in the color Salt. And this actually I have used quite a lot. I've shown this quite a few times. And this is a really interesting color. You can see it actually has a bit of glow, almost like the Make Beauty. Maybe not quite as glowy. It's a little bit more subdued. But this is an interesting color because it's sort of a cross between these Brontours and the more cool toned shades that we have over there. This again is not strictly a contour. It's not really one if you want to create that very realistic shadow look, because it will still bring a little bit of warmth to your skin and also adds a bit of glow to the skin. So I would again apply this a little bit higher up than the other ones. I wouldn't really bring it down here, quite high up, sort of right below the high point of the cheekbone, and then again blend it out with the brush. You can also use fingers for this. It's quite a sheer formula, very easily blendable. This one compared to the Make Beauty, because it doesn't have any redness to it, it doesn't really work as a blush. It's more a real cross between bringing a little bit of warmth to the skin while not looking orange at all. It really doesn't have any orange to it. It just brings a little bit of color to the face, a little bit of glow, as well as a little bit of definition. So yeah, it's one of those hybrid products really. The Saie Beauty packaging is one of my favorites. You know, it comes with this doe foot applicator, which just makes it really easy to apply. It has this beautiful frosted glass bottle design, and yeah, really enjoy everything about this really. It's a product that you can easily toss into your makeup bag. It's easy on the go. Just keep in mind that because of the color and the glow, you just won't get a super intense contoured effect with this. You will just get a bit of subtle definition. But if you're someone that's sort of a beginner to makeup and contour, this is a great option to just bring a little bit of something to your face. And these are all the contours and Brontours that are currently in my collection. There might be a few more, but yeah, these are the main ones I use and love. What do you think? Which one is your favorite? Which one are you most likely to try? Or if you have any of them already, what is your feedback? What do you think about them? Let's talk about it and gossip in the comments. Oh, and I think we need to pick a winner. And this is really hard because, I mean, these are so many and I use so many of them. But, you know, I love the Westman Atelier and the Dior contour. They will be my top luxury contours if you're looking for a very sleek design, beautiful packaging, that really pleasant experience when you use them. I think you could absolutely do worse than pick up one of the Westman Atelier or the Dior contours. They're just absolutely amazing, and I'm sure you will love these. But then I have to say, if it's really only about the formula, I think that the Danessa Myricks actually is the top formula. It's just perfect in every sense. The color is perfect, the blendability is incredible, and yeah, in terms of formula, the Danessa Myricks is just incredible. Final thoughts. I think there's actually quite a lot more amazing contours out there than I realized. I think I have this sort of mindset that I'm always on the hunt for great contours and always think that there's not enough out there, but really there are quite a few amazing ones out there already. And at this point, there's really something for everyone, no matter the skin tone. I think the beauty industry still absolutely needs to get better in providing for darker skin tones. But you know, with brands like Fenty and Danessa Myricks, really anyone can find their perfect shade. And you know, have fun with it. If you're new to makeup and you're exploring contour, exploring blush, all these different areas, this is an exciting moment. So yeah, enjoy it, make it your own, and don't take it too seriously. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. You know, I really enjoy making these videos and I really want to keep making them. So make sure to like and subscribe to really push the algorithm so I can continue to be on this platform. All that being said, we'll see each other next time. Bisous, bisous, yours truly.